The top 5 most successful tech fails. Confused? Well, sometimes even the most cutting-edge technology dies an embarrassing death, but it does set down the framework for better and well-timed future concepts. So here's my list of the top 5 tech fails that shaped the future of our tech industry. The EV1 from GM, released in 1996, was a car so ahead of its time that it had to be literally destroyed by the very company that made it. Today, Tesla may be leading the charge in the electronic vehicles market, but it was a legacy Detroit company, General Motors, that put the first commercial electric vehicle on the roads. The EV1 was only leased, not sold, and less than 2,500 were made. But GM ultimately decided that the EVs were an unprofitable niche and controversially scrapped the program, calling back and sending most EV1s to the crushers. As a result of GM calling the cars back and the subsequent destruction, an intact working EV1 is one of the rarest cars today. Although the EV1 failed, the journey ultimately was more worthwhile than the destination, as many of the things the EV1 engineers pioneered are now very commonly used, and the car for sure was a technological triumph. It's also interesting that GM's decision to crush the EV1s inspired Tesla, which as of now is the forerunner in the EV segment. Next up, we have the MapQuest. MapQuest was the world's first commercial web mapping service, launched back in 1996, and it was an instant hit. AOL acquired MapQuest for about $1.1 billion, and even Google partnered with it. Things were going all well, but in 2004, Google broke up and decided to launch their very own Google Maps. Google invested heavily in maps and added a lot of features, but still, MapQuest stayed the undisputed king of the mapping tech industry till 2006. Finally, in 2007, Google removed MapQuest from their search results and heavily promoted their own service instead. Also, Microsoft and Apple had launched their own alternatives, making the competition even more stiffer. MapQuest lacked their own search engine or operating system type of interface which could push people to use their service, and they also missed the next big mobile trend of app-based services, dominated heavily again by Google and Apple. All of this and the lack of enough funding to advance themselves led to the disappearance of MapQuest from the picture entirely, and they made it to this list here. But anyways, MapQuest was a remarkable idea in the sense that it inspired most of the modern day mapping services we use on our smartphones today. Alright, let's talk about the infamous Google Glass. Recently, there has been a lot of hype regarding wearable tech and augmented reality products, but Google had entered this field long back in 2012 by releasing their futuristic Google Glass. It was a very hyped product, and Google also arranged a quite flashy launch event to unveil their glasses. It was a very cool piece of tech on its own, but maybe it was not launched at the right time. High price tag, privacy concerns, and lack of any practical use case scenarios led to a miserable failure of this product. But this definitely gives Silicon Valley a lot of lessons regarding what the future of tech holds. And it's kinda safe to say that in the next few years, we might see the Google Glasses making a huge comeback and be quite a successful product this time. Talking about wearable tech, you all must be familiar with the smartwatches. The next tech fail is not the world's first smartwatch, rather, it's the first smartwatch to fully align with the smartphone era, offering full iPhone and Android compatibility. We're talking about the Pebble smartwatch. Pebble Watch was the most fashionable piece of tech back in the day, and it was backed by a very successful Kickstarter campaign in 2013. Pebble offered a dedicated app store with over 1,000 applications, and its fun, quirky design inspired a cult following. But the smartwatch market at the time was too small for Pebble to survive, especially when the world's biggest tech giants entered the space with their own smartwatches. Finally, in 2016, Pebble was sold to Fitbit 6 months after the controversial final Kickstarter campaign, leaving many backers without providing them any device at all. Alright, it's time for the number 1 on the list, but before moving on to the final tech fail, do remember to drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more things tech. The availability of internet changed the world. Suddenly, you don't need to have a lot of money or powerful connections to reach out to millions and express yourself. Internet provides a space for you, and in the beginning, this space was Myspace. Back in 2005, before the popularity of Facebook and Twitter, Myspace was the king of social media. Its popularity was so much so that it had surpassed Google and Yahoo as the most visited websites at that time. MySpace was also quite unique as it allowed its users to customize their user pages via CSS and HTML. At its prime, MySpace was acquired by the Fox Media Group, but soon, due to inexperienced leadership, it turned into a buggy and inconsistent platform, facing heavy competition as the rise of Facebook had just begun. Also, MySpace had to fight a number of legal battles regarding the online harassment of kids on its platform. Apart from the bugs, MySpace was also plastered with dodgy advertisements, while their competitor Facebook maintained an easy to use, simple, ad free design. Finally, in 2008, Facebook overtook MySpace as the most popular social media site, and since then, MySpace has only gone down into obscurity. Now, if we look back, MySpace was a great idea and it was launched at the right time, but probably due to inexperienced leadership, it couldn't keep up with the rapid advances and features of its competitors and somehow lost the race to be the next big social media giant. But still, MySpace, being the pioneer of social media, was like the stepping stone for the evolution of all modern day social media platforms. So that's it for this video, guys. That was my take on the 5 most successful tech fails. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.